Indeed, I think all citizens everywhere need to know that no country will use this as an excuse to claim an unfair advantage. Shared responsibility must include an obligation to share information about each country's good faith efforts to keep its commitments. That's common sense. After all, that's what an agreement means. People need to trust the process, and that trust is built through transparency. There is absolutely nothing new and nothing threatening about that kind of transparency. We have it in nuclear arms control agreements, and we have it in trade agreements. Countries have accepted the international rules and enforcement mechanisms of the WTO and flourished. And today, we must share with each other in good faith our efforts to meet the new standards that come with international climate commitments. Without an agreement here in Copenhagen that addresses this core issue of transparency, it will be exceedingly difficult to persuade already doubtful elected officials that they are safe in asking their citizens to go along. Senators and congressmen alike are determined that there must be consequences for a country that thinks they can duck altogether or fake a participation in the solution. Now, once a treaty is finally enforced, and we all understand that it's not in the next few days, this is a framework, a political agreement, a larger agreement, with a treaty yet to come based on it. But once a treaty is enforced, countries that fail to make a good faith effort towards reducing emissions will find that they can't dump high carbon intensity products into other people's markets. Certainly I speak for the United States on that. This is a fair response to non-compliance with the concept of a binding international agreement. And one of the last barriers to bold American leadership is the knowledge that even if we take tough steps forward, our efforts can be totally eclipsed by rising emissions from others. You may not know it, but the truth is that when the U.S. Senate talks about climate policy, fundamentally, all of you are in the room, because our debate always comes back to the global effort. Let me be clear. America will honor the bedrock principle of common but differentiated responsibility. Differentiated means less developed countries can adopt different reduction targets at different rates, reflecting their economic and energy realities. But let's be honest here. Our common responsibility demands that if we're serious about solving climate change, then every country that contributes significantly to the problem today or will contribute in the future must be a part of the solution in a way that is transparent and accountable. Now, I recognize there is an inconsistency in asking other countries to grow differently than we did. We, the Western industrialized developed countries. Industrial pollution did not begin in the developing world. For a century and a half, the United States and the countries of Europe became modern economies with scant knowledge of the damage that we were doing to our climate. But certainly, for the last 20 years or so, we have known, and that only adds to our responsibility. I am sympathetic to developing countries' concerns. Because of our emissions, it's their crops that will disappear. Because of our inaction, it's their fields that turn to desert, and their people who will be worst affected, and those are the ones who are least equipped to meet this challenge. Those are legitimate issues. But for developing countries, winning the right to repeat our mistakes will be cold comfort if it leads us all to climate catastrophe.